Hi, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
She's in Texas. I'm in Mississippi. The kids are back in New York, but we're talking college football. Best games by week in September, all other stuff. Top
That's
7 Big Ten quarterbacks.
It's great. We're going through the season already. We're talking biggest, best games. And I mean, hello, we need the season.
So y'all ready to get rolling or what?
Yeah, we're rolling. So whenever you feel ready to rock and roll.
So Katie gave me some back talk on my list, my Big Ten list. So it has been altered a little bit.
Well, that's bullshit.
No, it's not. Do whatever.
Katie owned up to her list last week.
No, I can do whatever I want to with my list.
All right, fine, whatever.
We will never ever put out a more well-timed graphic in my whole
true, Katie. That was awesome.
life ever.
Truly.
Was he cool about it?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I generally when I put the list together, it was kind of just like chuck stuff at the wall. But then I was like, I credited to Tennessee fans. I was like, I knew by putting you purposely lower, we'll get Tennessee fans to interact because they love you so much and they're so like gung ho.
He also was like, before we even talked to Katie, he was just kind of laughing about it. He wasn't even saying anything. He was like, but he said, he was like, oh, I'm behind how many quarterbacks? Because Big Cat was the one that said or showed him the list. But Hendon said he saw the list before he walked in. Wow. So I bet it was probably they were with the Spire guys, the NIL collective. And I bet they just showed it to him. Both of them were really cool. Cedric Tillman also was there. Yeah. He's really good too. So both of them were like the nicest guys ever.
The picture looked like they were like taking it in stride.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, it was like almost meme worthy. It was also cool that Andrew Schultz was just casually sitting in the
back. That also was hilarious. If you saw it, Andrew Schultz was just in the back.
He's a massive comedian, for those who don't know the name. I was just like, oh, that's a little added bonus there.
Very funny.
Froze.
No, I think he's
just ignoring us.
No, I'm just looking at something.
Yikes.
All right. You're going to figure that light out in a minute. Look how rich they are.
What are you talking about?
Look how rich they are. You can tell that's nice brick. They got art on the walls.
Mom, you hear
you
this?
Have art on the walls.
That's art.
Behind you. You have art.
This is motel room art. I got beer signs.
Brandon's saying that we're so rich because you have art on the wall.
Look how rich they are. Look how nice that brick is. Look at the woodwork. The woodwork of the cabinetry is.
She's just glaring at you right now. She's not. I'm glaring at you through her. She's just peacefully sitting there reading, unaware.
Let me tell you something, Smith. Your mom don't want this smoke, okay? She don't want this. You don't want this smoke.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't. She's too kind of a lady. I'll just take the smoke and give it right back to you. She's way too nice. She doesn't even like me swearing in the house.
Are you going to swear on today's show?
I've been swearing in the house. Respectfully.
Say the F word.
Mom, can I say the F word? She goes,
you're a grown woman.
I know, but I was just respectfully. Yeah, I can say whatever the fuck I want.
Oh, I was talking about the slur that you've been saying.
Shut up. That's not funny.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Kayce's in Dallas. I'm in or somewhere out there. I'm in West Point, and the two kids are back at the house.
Yeah, we're still at the house.
Right. We didn't get a babysitter or anything.
Nothing. We let the inmates run the asylum.
We're terrible parents.
Well, I'll be back tonight. How about you?
I'll be
absent
back
father.
Tomorrow's ish.
You're absent father. I'll be back before this drops.
Also, you know what? We'll talk about it after the show.
Okay.
Oh, that's an after the show conversation. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. There's no point in talking about it on air, but I mean, what a wild turn of events, Brandon.
Oh yeah.
Truly crazy.
Yeah, I haven't even told you, Kayce. It's crazy out here.
It's nothing. Has nothing.
I don't have anywhere to live.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well.
All right, y'all want to do a show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Hello. Welcome to Unnecessary Roughness.
You never said hello.
Well, I just said hello. I decided to change it up today. So hi and hello mean the same
Hi.
thing.
Welcome to Unnecessary Roughness.
He said it like he was about to start an NPR ad.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Have you learned about this insurance for men over the age of 55?
Welcome to Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football podcast. By the way, do we have a Roman ad later? Because I think I'm going to do my Roman ad like that.
Oh boy.
I think we do have a Roman ad later.
If we have a Roman ad, I'm gonna have to take this across the house because my sweet mother cannot hear a Roman ad.
Hello. Let me talk to that penis. Okay. So we're brought to you by High Noon Hard Seltzer. It is the drink of the summer, the pool pack, the variety pack. All the packs are delicious and wonderful. They got so many great flavors: peach, kiwi, guava, lime, black cherry, grapefruit, pineapple, and I'm sure I'm missing a
Lemon.
watermelon, lemon. Thank you very much. All the fruit flavors of the universe are pretty much represented in High Noon, and it's delicious. Real juice, real vodka, real people. The best drink of the summer. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Wasn't that nice? All right. It is our second episode of the week, our second week for doing 2 episodes. And we still have to have a meeting between the 4 of us if we're ever together in a room again about the proposed idea for the fall too. So just
Well,
put a pin
yes,
in that.
it tentative. There also has to be a meeting prior to that I have to have.
Yeah, we'll figure it all out once we're all back in New York.
You have to have a meeting. You have to have a meeting about our meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll meet.
But
after-
actually, and listen to this, Jack and I have to have a meeting before that meeting. So
Okay, so
Jack
what-
and I,
We'll
And
have a meeting after your meeting that comes after your meeting with Jack. We'll have a meeting
Yes.
before our meeting.
And there was
Yes.
a meeting yesterday, actually, that the tentative meetings were even mentioned in.
oh, so we got a lot. We're in inception of meetings right now. But
Okay.
Jack and I have already talked about our pre-meeting. Then I guess it's a pre-meeting. Then I have a specific meeting. Then the 4 of us have a meeting based
Then
on the pre-meetings.
We have a post meeting on the pre-meeting. That's a pre-meeting for the post meeting.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And the other party that I have to meet with is aware that we have meetings, but that I have to have a pre-meeting before meeting with this party.
Speaking of all the useless meetings in the world, SEC Media Days happened this week.
They
Yes.
did.
Just the worst thing that we do as a society. We have a couple of news items coming up, but on today's show, we've got 2 activities for you. I did this last night in my hotel room in Starkville, Mississippi. It's actually an Airbnb, quite nice. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, let's really dive into the schedule a little bit. And I almost did it for the whole season, but I said, no, let's do it for the first 5 weeks, which is basically September. Let's do it for September. And what we're doing is we're going to go through and we're going to break down the schedule a little bit of every single week of the first 5 weeks of the season. And we'll have a fun little game with that. We're also going to unveil our top 7 Big Ten quarterbacks. We've done the ACC, we've done the SEC. Now we're in the middle of the country at the Big Ten. That comes up in a minute. 3 news items
has a
I want to talk
question.
about. Yes, Jack has his
Jack
hand
has
up. Go, Jack.
I would be remiss not to mention we have not done a hate week yet, and a lot of people are actually want to do it. Or want us to do it. I'm just maybe it's a bonus episode, maybe it's a 30-minute quick.
All right.
hate.
Well, I need to be there, so I'm thinking early August we'll do a hate week episode.
Okay, cool.
We
cool,
should,
cool.
yeah, because I agree, Jack. I've had a lot of people say that too, because we usually do it, the end of May, said hate week. It all got pushed back because of personal things amongst the family. We can't go into the season without a hate week. And, obviously we're not going to talk about all the hate, but I put this in the group text. All 4 of us separately and individually had our own hate week with different fan bases this week. We need an episode to get it all out. But Brandon does have to be in person. He does have to be there.
I did. Yeah. I think we may also have a potential Mel Tucker interview coming up too, which could be big.
Wow.
Tuck coming?
Want to do that? Yeah. Tuck's
Tuck
coming. Yeah. As the Michigan State fan said.
Well, Jack, I mean, you have to go full blown like WWE heel.
But I don't hate
Tuck's
Mel
coming.
Tucker. I hate.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
Tuck's coming. You
Tuck
gotta
is coming, apparently.
All right. So here's 3 news items I want to get out of the way before we get to our activities today. And Katie, if there's any news items I miss, please throw your hand up and let me know. Number 1, yesterday, and this is a team that I'm kind of down on this year because they lost their quarterback and best receiver and offensive coordinator, even though they returned a lot. But I just got a bad feeling about Pitt this year. Pat Narduzzi said one of the dumbest things I've ever seen said by a sitting head coach. And I understand that we don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes, and we don't know the relationships between coordinators and everything. But last year they had a coordinator named Mark Whipple, the offensive coordinator for Pitt. This year he's at Nebraska, which is a lot of the reason for optimism around Lincoln, Nebraska is Mark Whipple coming over. Last year, Mark Whipple took a guy named Kenny Pickett, who had 3 straight years of 13 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, turned him into a first-round pick, turned him into a Heisman finalist, and won them 11 games. He took Jordan Addison from a decently recruited receiver into the best receiver in the country. Pat Narduzzi goes on a show yesterday and basically downplays everything, saying last year, we had an offensive coordinator who didn't believe in running the ball. We had a game, take the game against Wake Forest, for example. We ran it we threw it pretty much every down. We did this. All he wanted to ever do was throw the ball. And he just absolutely shit on the guy for not running the ball. This game against Wake Forest, by the way, Wake Forest was a good ass team. They scored 45 points and won by 24. Is this the most out of touch you've seen a coach look in a long time?
Yeah, out of touch is the perfect way to put it, because it didn't come off as where he was trolling. It didn't come off as he was being vindictive. It just came off as like he was just completely unaware that what he was saying was stupid. At least that's the way I took it. You see a lot of these talking season coach quotes where you're like, all right, this guy knows exactly what he's saying, knows exactly what he's doing. I didn't think Narduzzi knew what he was doing.
I think I go the other way. I think
Really?
there was so much dislike and so much vitriol for the guy, for Mark Whipple, and maybe a lot of, I hate the word, but butthurt because he left, that he actually doesn't even care, that it makes him look stupid when he says all he ever wanted to do was run the ball. Like, yeah, he succeeded at a very high level. He made your team good because of the way he ran the offense. You dislike him so much that you're actually downplaying his accomplishments because you didn't agree with. And in that game, they ran it like 38 times and they passed it 34 times. Like, it was complete balance in every way, shape, or form. Jack, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I think there must have been a lot of things that happened behind the scenes that made Narduzzi mad with Whipple and how he left. Maybe I don't want to repeat what you said, but butthurt. And I also think maybe Narduzzi, he is an old school football guy. He's probably one of the most modern old school football guys out there. And this may be the reason why Jordan Addison wanted to leave, because he's seeing the writing on the wall. And maybe Narduzzi was saying, hey, let's focus more on running the ball and go back to what Pitt's always been known for. Think about all the great running backs that have come through there. So
I think you're right, Jack. It's like and again, we're all saying butt hurt because that's just, as much as we hate that word, but that's what's true. I guess my question to you guys is, where it goes back to what I was saying, is he didn't know what he was doing. He obviously is that upset about what happened. But do you think when he was calculating this quote in his head, as he was talking, he knew how dumb he sounded with it? Or do you think he just didn't care?
No. I don't think he cares. And I don't know that he thinks he was dumb. He is an old school guy. This is a guy that he'll kick a field goal on 4th and 1 from the inch line. Like, this is a guy who's always he's a conservative, boring guy, and the Mark Whipples of the world have kind of passed him by. And that's why I think if I'm Keaton Slovis, the quarterback who transferred in, and I hear my coach saying this offense that made a first-round quarterback last year is all of a sudden not the offense he wants to run, I'd be like, what the fuck? What are we talking about? I came here to throw the ball around the yard. I came here to do what they did last year, and now you're telling me I'm going to hand the ball off first or second down? It's just really weird. I do not come out of that interview or that little, and it was just a snippet, and it was probably taken a little bit out of context. I don't come out of that with confidence about Narduzzi and Pitt going forward.
No, but it is the, like I said, it's the talking season, not just for coaches, for everybody. So everything this is all we have to talk about right now. So you do take those little things. And I just like that quote seemed to me coming out of like a very emotional place, where if he actually had time to rethink it, maybe he wouldn't have gone that far. I'm not sure. But it really, then you look, and I know we'll talk about the Big Ten quarterbacks, but now you look at what Nebraska has going and you're like, well, wait a minute, what is this offense going to look like now that Whipple is there? So, if you're a Nebraska fan, you've got to feel pretty confident with this.
Moving on, Jimbo Fisher is a big old pussy.
Brandon, I cannot tell you how upset I was when the Texags is obviously, at SEC Media Days, and I, followed them since I used to work for them. And when I saw the quote come out where he was like, basically saying you fight with your family members, you fight with your brothers, the ones you love the most, I could not have rolled my eyes more. Like, are we kidding? Like, obviously October 8th was going to be a big deal no matter what, assuming both of these teams are as good as we think they are. But like, I don't want them to kiss and make up. Stop kissing and making up. Like, keep this whole thing going before October 8th. Like, the players are going to get up fine, but I wanted that hate going into that. And now we're talking about kissing cousins, basically.
It's just like, I understand that everybody's scared of negative publicity and everybody's scared of having a beef in public, but that whole storyline of A&M signing the #1 class and then Saban being a bitch about it, like, Jimbo and them had the upper hand in that. And it also was giving life to the offseason. It powered us through the offseason. It's exciting. It's fun. Yeah. Was A&M going to get killed October 8th? Whatever. Who cares? But Jimbo had the upper hand. Jimbo got the class and Saban couldn't handle it. And Jimbo just has given it back with his little tour saying, we have utmost respect for them, and it was just competitive, and they're my brother, and he's not your fucking brother. You're not Nick Saban's brother. Nick Saban will fucking scratch your eyes out and fuck your skull. He's not your brother. None of these guys are brothers. They want to kill each other.
And I know that they have the history, and that was kind of part of this whole thing. And like, of course, like our podcast, because, with me being an Aggie and us being, just that whole thing, it means a lot. This wasn't just a storyline that people from Alabama or people from A&M cared about. You've got people that don't give a shit about the SEC that were like, oh my God, October 8th, these guys, this is Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, and Jimbo Fisher's going after Nick Saban. The thing is, if you're going to backtrack that badly, don't do it in the first place. Because the reason so many people, including me, were praising him, it was like, oh my God, you went after Goliath. You went after the big bad wolf and Nick Saban. And you said what everybody in the country wants to say.
Hold on. I disagree. Hold on. Saban went after him first, and Jimbo stood up for his team and his,
That's
and
what
his
I mean.
program and all that. And Jimbo stood up to the monster when nobody else does, and now he backed down.
Right. I think that, and that's, to me, when it happened, and it was like, I love college football beef no matter what school it is. I think it's funny, especially because they're grown men. And then, afterwards it was all like, oh, they won't look at each other in a restaurant and all that stupid shit from the SEC meetings. But to me, it was like, wow, there is a coach that said what so many coaches want to say to Goliath of Nick Saban, to the legendary best coach of all time in college football. And now it just feels like it's washed away. Like the bulletin board material of like, yeah, these coaches go after each other and they say what they want to say is gone now. Like, that's boring.
Yeah, I just I don't know. Like, and it's also when we get up to October 8th and like in the season, somebody commits to A&M, somebody commits to Alabama, these guys are going to be right back to hating each other. They're going to be right back to beefing. They're going to be right back. And this media day kiss and make up. Oh, I'm sorry. Fuck that.
That's what it truly felt like, and I tweeted it. It's like, I don't want to see this kissing and making up. I wouldn't want to see it no matter who it was, but especially it's like, no, like stand by what you said. And part of me wonders if it's because he's gotten so much backlash because of that video from Kyle Field and, whatever else. It's like, who cares? Just own it. But this whole, not just at SEC Media Days, I think SEC Media Days is the biggest one because it's the most televised. All these coaches it is so coach speak to a painful degree at these media days. Like, I don't know why we do them anymore. They're not saying what they actually think anyways.
Yeah. All right.
No,
and
that's not true.
Go ahead.
Clark Leah said that Vanderbilt's going to be the best program in the country very soon. So I think
so see, I love that. I love a guy coaching Vanderbilt saying we're going to be the best program in the country. Are they going to be the best program in the country? No. Are they going to be the best program in Middle Tennessee? No. But fuck, get up there and fucking say it, man. Get up there and say it with your fucking chest.
I love it. Well, Brandon,
the idea of you got the Alabama coach here, the Georgia coach here. The idea of the Vanderbilt coach coming to the mic saying, we're going to be the best damn program in the country. When Kirby Smart doesn't even have the balls to say that.
Yeah. Like I think even Kirby Smart is like, hey, we got a really good team this year, but we know we're going to have like a lot of competition on the recruiting trail and on the field. Clark Leah's like, fuck that, man. We're taking over.
Right.
We may not have won an SEC game in forever, but we're taking over.
Like, what does he have to lose? That's the best part. What does he have to lose? You might as well say that. That's
the SEC program, and they almost lost to UConn last year. Like they like,
Yeah,
and
they're god awful, but who cares?
We've talked about this before, Brandon, and it's like our prime SEC media days. Every time, what coach won SEC media days? Derek Mason. It was always Derek Mason because he always said the best things. It's like, well, yeah, of course he did. This is the only time people are actually listening to what he has to say. No one cares what the Vanderbilt head coach has to say in the middle of October. But if you make headlines in July, people are paying attention.
I've gotten to the point I don't even pay attention to what's coming out of SEC media days. I did see that quote. I thought it was really funny. And there was Vanderbilt's quarterback was one. I think Will Levis was another one. I think somebody else was another one, Hendon Hooker maybe. But there was just these quotes from sports writers saying, "Wow, Will Levis, if this guy talks so well, he's so well spoken, he presents himself so well, he owned the room." The fact that sports writers are still amazed that these guys can actually talk in English is it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Sports writers act like football players and coaches are supposed to be knuckle dragging cavemen that can't say anything.
Speaking of
Oh, what's that? Yeah. Okay. What'd you say, Jack?
Don't you? Who is the best SEC media days coach of all time? I have an answer.
Steve Spurrier.
No.
Spurrier is also my guess, but I don't think Leach is bad. Who is it?
It was Derek Mason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No.
He was a 12-0 coach up on that podium.
But yeah, that's what I was just saying is that every single year it's like who won the week? Derek Mason, because that's the only time people realize, and he got everybody hyped. Can I say something about Will Levis that I have a real problem with?
The mayonnaise coffee.
The mayonnaise coffee. And listen, I don't shame things because like I put weird things on weird stuff. Like I'm the person that'll put hot sauce on pretty much anything. You got to draw the line. And I love mayonnaise. You got to draw the line at mayonnaise and coffee. What are we doing?
He's working you. He doesn't put his mayonnaise in coffee.
How do you know, Jack?
Because he's from Connecticut. He went to Xavier. Like he doesn't put mayonnaise in. He's working you. He's working you like WWE.
You think
That's
Will
fair.
Levis?
If he is doing that, I respect it. But I mean, just the thought of that is just revolting.
You think Will Levis ever shows up to these things and looks around and be like, you guys had me in the first round. You had me as one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Do y'all know I'm not very good?
Oh, come on.
Oh,
Do y'all know I kind of stink?
No.
he's just trying to distract everybody from that by saying he puts mayonnaise in his coffee because he knows more people will talk about that than if he's good or not.
Remember last year he ate the banana with the skin on it?
I thought about this because how many times were we sitting in Jersey at our gambling house and watched sideline reporters from the top of the sideline reporters down to the bottom level eat that banana? I swear to God, if I see sideline reporters drinking coffee with mayonnaise on the sidelines this season, I'm going to fucking lose it.
Mike Golick's son's already planning on it.
Oh God, just
By
a September game in Kentucky, just drinking coffee mayonnaise.
Brandon, you know how you love being at home? My mom, while we're on this, just set down homemade chocolate chip cookies and coffee for me. I may never come home.
Jack, look at that plate. Look how rich they are.
Let me see it. Oh my God, that's an outrageous plate.
That's an outrageous plate. That's a fucking what are we talking about? That's unbelievable.
It's a display plate.
And why you eat? Oh, there's cookies. Okay, yeah. I
Who
get
has a display plate just for an afternoon cookie?
Because she displays them in the kitchen.
Oh.
Me. I'm home. She's spoiling me. I'm a guest in this household.
Okay. Hello.
Oh God, here we go.
I'm sorry,
again.
I wasn't talking to you. Kayce.
I know.
I was talking to somebody else.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
I wasn't talking to you, Jack, and I wasn't talking to you, Katie.
I know who you're talking to.
I unfortunately do too.
I'm talking about your penis. You're listening to me. You're watching. You're driving. You're at home. Your penis. It's in your pants. It's about 3.5 feet away from your face. You know it. You know it very well. Nobody knows your penis more than you, except maybe me. I know that thing. I know it hangs a little bit to the left. I know it's shriveled. I know it embarrasses you. It embarrasses you when people see how small it is, and it embarrasses you when it doesn't last very long in bed. And the woman you're with that gave you her time and her body didn't get satisfied. You piece of shit. Well, guess what, penis? Guess what? I've got a way for you to be better. Be better, penis. Look at yourself right now. If you're driving down the road, or if you're at home in your dorm room, look down at your dick and say, be better. That's how you do it. And not only do you give it a motivational speech,
Be better.
you also give it Roman swipes. They're clinically proven to make your dick last longer in bed. And by proxy, you are attached to your dick. So you last longer in bed. You and your dick need to be better. And Roman swipes can do it. They come in discreet packaging. You swipe them on, instantly better. They make you last longer in bed. And that is better for the lady that has laid down with you. So congratulations to her. And hey, Dick, you acknowledged you had a problem. You went out and you fixed it. And you are a better penis because of it. So congratulations, you fucking dickhead. You did it. Thanks to Roman Swipes. Go to romanswipes.com/Walker and you get, I believe, $5 off your when you make an order. I believe am I saying it right?
No.
Tell me
You
what
go
I'm saying.
to roman.com/Walker to get your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan.
See, I've got to be better. Your dick has to be better.
Yes.
Think of me. Think of your dick. We're all going to get better. Let's go get them, dicks.
Go get them. Get roman.com/Walker.
All right. And Kirby Smart is now rich beyond belief. He got an extension, I believe 10 years,
112.5.
Yeah, basically around 11 million a year, which if you win a national championship at Georgia, first time in 40 years, you're going to get an outrageous salary. I do think he's one of these guys that's like, oh, we shouldn't pay NIL guys that much while he's still just getting bags and bags and bags of cash to people. So Kirby Smart's full of shit, but in a full of shit world, he is one of the top dogs on the block right now. So good for him, I guess.
And I mean, you win a national title and you're going to get that money, especially now when you look and it's just like money's being thrown everywhere. I know this is not college football, but it kind of is. I loved, and Jack, I know you and I talked about this a lot, just, a little snippet that happened today in the sports world, the Kyler Murray contract, getting to go back and seeing all the just buffoons that said he would never make real money in the NFL and he should stick with the Oakland A's. And I know that, people are trying to say, well, look what Juan Soto just signed. It's like, we don't know Kyler Murray was going to be Juan Soto, but what we do know is that he's about to make per year the exact same as the active payroll for the Oakland A's. Like, I think he made the right decision, folks.
Can y'all do me a favor?
What?
Can you make your mom stop walking through the back to the back of your shot there? It's distracting.
No, he's lying. He's lying. His children act up. Oh, don't you be mean to my mother.
I'm not being mean to your mom. I'm just relax. Everybody relax.
Don't bother him.
Fine.
No. She thinks it's actually bothering her.
No, it's not bothering me. But I could use some cookies in my life.
He wants you to send him cookies. She said you have to behave to get cookies.
Well, looks like I'm out of cookies. All right. So I guess what we got now is our top 7 Big Ten quarterbacks that we can go through. We've been going through every conference. SEC probably got the most. The SEC, I didn't even look at the feedback on the charts. I knew that people were going to be shit house mad about it, so I didn't even look.
I'll be honest. Jack sees more of it than I do. I think people were more angry about the ACC than the SEC.
People were mad at Katie.
Oh yeah. Well.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing about these conferences as you go through. This is not a strong year for the Big Ten as far as quarterbacks go, at least on paper going in. Now it might be coming out, but going in, I think both the SEC and the ACC have better quarterback situations. Now, Big Ten has better teams than the ACC, but I think it's the most important position in the field. The ACC probably the number 1 conference this year. SEC would be number 2, and then I think Big Ten and then Big 12, Pac-12. We'll figure those out later. But Big Ten is interesting. And I think it's another conference that's going to have a universal number 1 across the board. I don't think anybody's going to have anybody but CJ Stroud at number 1. Am I correct?
Correct.
And I'll double down with what you just said. It's the most interesting. This one was the first one because, when we talked about it. We talked about it every episode that we didn't just do top 5. We did top 7 because 6 through 8 are usually the hardest. The finding 6 through 8 in the Big Ten was impossibly hard.
Oh, wow.
Bless you. Whoa. That was a sneeze, sir.
Turned into Ben Mintz for a second. Okay. So I'll just go. Obviously CJ Stroud, Ohio State, number 1. And when you're talking about the country, he's either number 1 or number 2. He probably goes in as number 2 because Bryce Young won the Heisman last year, but there would be no shock whatsoever if he ended up this season as the number 1 quarterback. That's how good he is. That's how good the talent is around him. CJ Stroud. He's fantastic. So he's number 1. I did make a change from my original, I had my top 15 quarterbacks in the country list, and I had one guy a little off of it, but I have changed since then. So I altered my list here. Number 2 in the Big Ten for me is Aiden O'Connell, Purdue.
Okay.
Number 3, Talia Tungavailoa,
Okay.
Maryland. Number 4, and this is a guy who I think I came out of this exercise with a little bit more respect than I had going in, and I think I like him more than I had going in. Peyton Thorne, Michigan State, 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions last year, just a sophomore. Like, he hasn't entered the bulk of his career yet. Peyton Thorne. Number 5 is the duo at Michigan, Cade McNamara / JJ McCarthy. Both good. Both will see the field. That's my number 5. And it really got a little dicey here. But I think I figured it out the right way for myself. Number 6, I got Kayce Thompson coming over from Texas and going to Nebraska. 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions last year. Good numbers, and he got shit for a bad team, and it wasn't his fault. And number 7, Sean Clifford, Penn State. Clifford, Penn State. And that leaves off guys that you might have on your list, like Graham Mertz, like Tanner Morgan, like those are probably the only 2 that might actually show up on another list. But those are mine. So 1 CJ Stroud, 2 Aiden O'Connell, 3 Talia Tungavailoa, 4 Peyton Thorne, 5 Cade McNamara, JJ McCarthy, 6 Kayce Thompson, and 7 Sean Clifford from Penn State. Casey Smith.
I will tell you that number 7 spot, I left it blank and went and did the other thing that we're going to do and then came back to it. I'll go through mine, a lot of them the same, different order though. So of course, number 1, CJ Stroud. I have Talia at number 2. I know we've talked a lot about him, but when you look at his numbers, and I mean, granted, he plays for not a great team. When you look at his numbers, though, 70% completion last year. And the fact when you look at the end of the year and you look at the momentum that he had and how great he kind of finished, and then having another year with Loxley, and again, it's just kind of depending on how you're looking at this. I have the duo of McNamara and McCarthy at 3. Because the combination between the 2 of them did prove to get Michigan, amongst other things, obviously their defense too, but got them to the college football playoff. So I think that they don't have to, that Cade McNamara is steady, and that McCarthy is going to be the big play guy that works together. I have Aiden O'Connell at number 4, breakout season, all the things you said. I have Kayce Thompson at 5. I think he got a shit end of the stick at Texas. He also got hurt. But everything we talked about earlier with Mark Whipple and Nebraska getting a whole new offensive scheme, and just everything that they've really struggled with in the last few years with Adrian Martinez being that next guy and it just not playing out. I like Kayce Thompson there. I have Peyton Thorne at 6, which might be a little low because he obviously had a great season, but just, him not having Kenneth Walker, let's see what he's going to have to do more in the air. And then 7, where I really struggled, because Brandon, in good conscience, I couldn't put Sean Clifford, because I feel like every single year, like Penn State's going to take that next step. And it's usually when you look at the quarterback. Tanner Morgan, I feel like is 47 years old. This might be a pander pick, but I put Graham Mertz there. I like what we saw from Graham Mertz. I know he hasn't panned out, but just that Heisman hype that he had, even for the short period of time, it's not a slam dunk 7th pick, but of those 3, I would put Graham Mertz ahead of those 3.
Fair enough. He was in discussion for mine, but his numbers are just too bad.
Again, that 7th spot. I mean, like you said, the 3 guys you have to look at are Sean Clifford, Tanner Morgan, and Graham Mertz. You can make an argument for any of the 3 of them. Obviously, all of those fan bases would make those arguments, but somebody on the outside looking in, there's not an easy answer there.
There's also a 4th guy who hasn't played in the Big Ten yet, who I think could factor into that spot too. But I'll let Jack say his list before we do anything else. Jack, your list of the top 7 Big Ten quarterbacks, please, sir.
All right. So yeah, CJ Stroud number 1, Aiden O'Connell number 2. I have Peyton Thorne at 3. If you wanted to put Talia there instead of Peyton, I'm fine with that, but I put Peyton 3, Talia 4, Kayce Thompson 5, Cade / JJ at 6, and then I put Clifford in at 7. I think Graham Mertz stinks. He's not good. His numbers stink, and we only have an infatuation with him because he played the first game of the Big Ten season in 2020, and he lit up an Illinois defense that stunk. So he stinks, and he shouldn't. I mean, I'm looking at the other quarterbacks now. Do I think he's better than Spencer Petras? Probably. Do I think he's better than Connor Bazelak? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he better than Noah Vidral?
Yeah.
Probably. Like, he's probably right around there. And then, like, there's Tommy DeVito and Ryan Olinsky and whatnot. But yeah, that's where I put it. I'm not a big fan of Graham Mertz. I've given him so many chances, and he just says disappointed me. But maybe, hey, these lists are meant to be wrong in a weird way, and this may end up being wrong. And Graham Mertz, hey, if he puts together a great season with Braylon Allen and whatnot.
But listen, there's a big drop off when you get past like 6 in the Big Ten, and you're talking about separating guys like Holinsky or Tommy DeVito or Spencer Petras. These guys are all, what's the word? Terrible.
Yeah.
And average. I mean, like, Connor Bazelak is the one that I think could play his way into. You remember 2 years ago, Connor Bazelak was the future of Missouri football.
Last year, when
we thought he was going to be good. We thought he was going to be there, and then he just wasn't. And now he gets a new shot at Indiana, and I don't mind that. I think that's maybe a good spot for both program and for Connor Bazelak. So I kind of like that. I'm intrigued by that pairing. But then you know, I even have Gavin Wimsatt instead of Noah Vidral at Rutgers. I think Gavin Wimsatt's going to be their starter eventually. So yeah, it's ugly at the bottom of that conference.
It really is.
And it really is. No, respectfully, of course, they could prove us wrong, but I'm not being respectful about this. Okay, well, I'm just saying that the 6 through 8 has been, usually it's like, oh my God, I have so many different guys that I want to put here, but I can't. This was the opposite. It was like, I have to put somebody there and I don't want to.
No, I think you can fill out the top 8. Like,
yeah, I mean, listen, I think that it's just because there's a drop off.
I think you can fill out the top 9 pretty. Like, what's the biggest drop off for me is probably the top two, and then there's a big drop off for 3 through 9.
Well, I think yeah, you're right. I think you go at 7 I pick Clifford, but then I would say the next 2 are definitely Mertz and Morgan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those 3 right there, I think again, I go back to what I said, that 7th spot, you could make an argument for any of those 3.
And Mertz is still a guy who has been garbage so far, but he's still young in his career. He's only halfway through his career. So he's still got potential to turn it 100%. Around and be the guy we thought he was going to be.
Right.
And then, yep.
I was just trying to find the stats about Aiden O'Connell is really good.
Yeah, he's really good.
I think 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions last year.
He's better than I gave him credit for on my initial list. That's why I went back and corrected that.
Yeah,
he also won't have
he completed 35 big time throws last season, most by any Big Ten quarterback since 2014. There's been some pretty good quarterbacks since 2014 at the Big Ten.
If you do his game log, by the end of the season, he was outstanding.
Yeah, definitely. There are some very talented Big Ten quarterbacks, but a lot, you look at with him, he loses David Bell. He loses Wright. What's his first name?
That's fine. But listen to this. His last 5 games last season, these are his last 5 games. Aiden O'Connell. He beat Michigan State, 536 yards, 3 touchdowns. He lost to Ohio State, 390 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He beat Northwestern, 423 yards, 3 touchdowns. These are first pick numbers right here. He beat Indiana, 278 yards, 4 touchdowns. He beat Tennessee, 534 yards, 5 touchdowns. These are shocking numbers. And that was the last 5 games he played. If he puts that together, he's going to be incredible.
It is interesting when I mentioned it with Talia too, the momentum that a lot of these Big Ten quarterbacks had at the end of last season, where it wasn't just like a full season of that. I mean, yes, they played well all season, but when you look at the last 5 or 6 games they played, it'd be interesting to see if that carries over.
The The thing about Talia is, though, man, he makes some bad decisions.
Well, Talia had one disaster game,
That is true.
and it was a big spot for Maryland. Everybody saw it. He was pathetic against Iowa. He had 5 picks, but he only had 11 picks all year. So he had 5 picks in one game. He had 6 in all the others.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
He
You're right.
and in that game, his best receiver went out in the first drive or the first kickoff. Maybe it was very early. So
Yep.
I think you can. If a guy's got that extreme of a bad game, I think you can throw it out.
All right. So as we've mentioned, both Brandon and I are in our hometowns. So I have been eating very well on this episode. I've gotten homemade cookies. I've gotten coffee. I've gotten fresh homemade lemonade. I've been getting homemade meals all week, but I am heading back to New York right after we finish this episode, which means I will need to be cooking for myself again. And Jack and Katie, you know what that means. HelloFresh is about to come through because they are the best meal kit in America. And it makes me feel as if my mom is still cooking for me, even though she's thousands of miles away.
No, we love HelloFresh. It's easy to make and it comes right to your door. That's the biggest thing. Comes right to your door. If you're in an apartment, it comes to the mail room, but it's right there. And we have an offer, and it's going to not just be one box. It's going to be a lot of boxes, let me tell you.
A lot of boxes, Brandon Walker's favorite, lots of boxes. So right now with the URL, hellofresh.com/Walker16, as long as you use the promo code Walker16, you're going to get 16 free meals across 7 boxes. So if you don't know what a HelloFresh box is, it's basically, well, it's not basically, it is, like Jack just said, it comes to your door. It's all the freshest ingredients and it's the exact portions that you need for each recipe. So you're not going to have a whole bottle of random dressing sitting in your fridge for the next 2 years. It's just the exact amount you need for the recipe, just the exact amount of produce, meat, whatever kind of meal you decide. And not only is it 16 meals, it's also 2 servings. So it's technically 30, I can't do math, 32?
Yep.
32 free
32.
meals.
And then you also have 3 free gifts.
3 free gifts. And like they come through with these gifts too. Like I've gotten some really good sparkling waters, some really good desserts, some really good fresh fruit that I never would have bought myself. So again, this is my favorite sponsor that we have. I love all of our sponsors. We know that, but I use HelloFresh all the time. You can feel like a gourmet cook. It's fresh. It's healthy. You don't have to be healthy either. You can have just whatever you want. The burgers are fantastic, but they have lunch options that are super quick. They have healthy options, keto options, family options, everything you can. And the best part to me, you pick your menu every week. If you need to skip the week, like I did this week, because I'm in Texas, you can do so, or you can just keep it coming, pick whatever you want, keep it coming. So HelloFresh.com/Walker16, promo code Walker16, get all those free meals, all those free gifts. You will not regret it.
All right, here we go. So here's how we're going to do this. We have a season coming up, and we have many games every single weekend, and every weekend we'll make a judgment. Oh, this is a big weekend coming up. Oh, this doesn't look good. But I thought a month out or more than a month out, we can look at these schedules for every week and really pick out what's going to stand out, predict what's going to happen a little bit. So I got 4 categories for each week of games, the first 5 weeks. Now, it's basically in September. Week 5 is on the Saturday is on October 1st, but for this exercise, it's September. So October 1st is my mom's birthday too. So happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday.
By the way, 6 weeks from today is the kickoff of week 1.
There you go. So here's how it is. We're going to look and based on hype, here are your 4 categories. It's going to be the biggest game of the week based on hype, based on rankings, based on nationally what will be viewed as the biggest game of the week. And then the second category is the actual biggest game of the week, meaning it's not worried about hype. We're worried about how it's going to affect teams going forward, how it's going to affect the eventual playoff race, conference race, stuff like that. So biggest game, actual biggest game. The third category is best game. It's the game that week that you think has the highest potential for being an all-time classic, for being a thriller, for being fantastic. And then our upset alert. And that's obviously the game most likely to give us a big upset. So again, the biggest game, actual biggest game, best game, upset alert. Those are your 4 categories.
Yep.
How are we going to do this? Because I know obviously we all have 4
week
games.
by week.
Week by week?
I think we do it week by week, category by category, frankly.
Okay.
I like
All right.
that.
I
So-
like that.
All right, week 1, the biggest game. I don't think there's any doubt here as far as what's going to be the biggest game nationally for hype. The biggest game, judged by everybody that watches football, is in fact Ohio State against Notre Dame. Is that unanimous across the board?
Yep.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. What do you think is a bigger game than that?
So here is where, and this, you called Katie, what was it? Katie Caveat last week.
Right.
I'm going to be Smith semantics this week. That's what I'm going to be doing. No, no, I just know Jack loves that. So
you're basically going to be a woman.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to be a woman for sure. So obviously there's going to be,
you're going to have to double woman.
I'm double womaning.
Yeah. Katie just had to go to a meeting, but you have to double it up now.
Yes, I'm double womaning for the crew. So for me, when you look at the marquee games, I think that Ohio State, Notre Dame, very clearly a marquee game. However, going into week 1, you have the national champions playing Oregon, and Oregon always draws a ton. So Oregon at Georgia, to me, it's okay, they're the national title champions. They're coming back. Can they repeat it? And then Oregon, even though they haven't proven that they should continue to get that every year as of late, they always get that hype going into it. So it's like the national title versus the wide open Pac-12, and Oregon's always in that conversation. So I have Oregon at Georgia.
And also Oregon's head coach is the former defensive coordinator of the national champion. So
you have that hype going into it. But to me, it's like if Georgia was playing some shitty non-conference game that week, then it's fine. It's whatever. But because they're playing a Power 5 school and a big name like Oregon, and you have the coaching crossover, that's going to be the biggest game of the week from a marquee standpoint. Obviously, Ohio State, Notre Dame is there too. But spoiler, I have them somewhere else on this list.
Okay, well, I like that we have a disagreement there. I like that a lot. So we're going to move on. So the actual biggest game of that week, not the game that will receive the most hype, but the game that I think is going to affect the most going forward is, to me, it's the Utah Utes at the Florida Gators. Utah is a team that has designs on winning the Pac-12, designs on being in the playoff conversation. They open on the road at an SEC place and a very, very hard place to play. Florida has changed the future of their program by changing coaches, and they need this coach to make a good first impression. They have a big-time opponent in week 1. They have a quarterback they believe can be a Heisman winner. Somebody's getting painted out to be a fraud in this game. Somebody's season is going down the tubes in week 1 if they lose this game. And it's Florida against Utah. That's the actual biggest game of week 1, in my opinion. Kayce Smith.
The spoiler alert comes here. The actual biggest game to me is Ohio State, Notre Dame. You look at Notre Dame with Brian Kelly leaving. We've talked about that like crazy. We're going to see what they're going to look like without their coach. It's been there for 100 years. Ohio State missing the playoff last year, losing to Michigan, and Ohio State coming in with a vengeance, also hopefully having a better defense. But I think, to me, if Notre Dame upsets Ohio State, the Big Ten is all of a sudden a complete disarray. If Notre Dame loses week 1 to Ohio State, it's like, oh my God, are the Irish in disarray now without Brian Kelly? So to me, there's so much implications for not only the game itself, the playoff implications, but for both programs individually.
I hated the fact you had that game there, but it was well explained. I give you credit.
Thank you.
Jack, what is the actual biggest game of week 1?
Utah, Florida. Yeah, I agree. There's so many questions there. It's first time we're seeing Billy Napier. Utah has the most expectations they've had in a while. A lot of people are saying, hey, this could be the Pac-12 team. Now, what happened?
My dad is crawling through the kitchen right now.
Oh my God. He can walk through.
Hey man, just let him walk.
I told him he could walk.
Anyways, with Utah and Florida, and then from the Florida, but let's say Florida has a great game and beats Utah. Utah then could go at 11-1, win the Pac-12. And I think people would still be like, but they lost to Florida. Why should we put them in? So I think this borderline a must-win game for Utah. I know it's not, but from the actual biggest, that's why I put it there. Just like you said, you explained it really well.
It is when you look at both of those picks, the two that you got, the one that you guys have and then the one I have too, like you look at Notre Dame and say they lose to Ohio State, but they win the rest of their schedule. It's the same argument you just made with Utah. It's like you get down to the playoff and it's like, well, Notre Dame does have a loss, but they lost to Ohio State. Then if Ohio State loses another game in the Big Ten, that means a lot for Notre Dame as well with their resume. So both of those answers make complete sense to me.
All right. Now, those are the biggest games.
Mm-hmm.
But what will be the best game of week 1? And since I've been going first, we'll change the order here.
Okay.
We'll let Kayce Smith go first. The best game of week 1.
So the best game to me, like you said, could potentially be like an instant classic. Also, I think with the best storylines, that's what I played into this with. There's the semantics a little bit to me. And maybe this is because I just am so excited to see our Southern accent speaking coach down there in Baton Rouge. Florida State at LSU, I think is going to be a lot of fun to watch. There's a lot of hype around LSU, but also is Florida State going to finally take that next step with all the changes they've had in the last couple of years? And that game, when you look at just evenly matched, I feel like, yes, LSU has been better as of late. Maybe, you can put them there because Florida State stunk in the last few years. However, with all the change that's going on, that to me is an instant classic of just maybe a bunch of bad decisions, maybe a bunch of great decisions. I love the idea of Florida State at LSU in week 1.
Jack, what would be the best game of week 1?
I said Cincinnati and Arkansas. I think Florida State and LSU is a great pick, but I just put Cincinnati and Arkansas. Cincinnati coming off the best season of all time. Arkansas coming off one of their best seasons of all time and a lot of hype. And they're going up against each other. And it's like, oh, are they going to continue? Are they going to continue what they did last season, or will they fall off? So we'll see. And that's what I think is going to be the best game. And it's also like, it's kind of South versus North there, even though Cincinnati's Midwest, but it is the North technically.
When it comes to best games, I really feel like some conferences that give us conference matchups in week 1 are cheating, because that's conference matchups are more important. And therefore a conference game in week 1 is of the utmost importance. Like it's ratcheting up the difficulty and the importance to 11 right out of the gate. I think you have a desperate Penn State team that can't keep losing. James Franklin can't keep losing. They've got to start fast. They got to start well. They got to show that they're Penn State. You got a Purdue team that I just told you the numbers of this Aiden O'Connell. The last 5 games, he was the best quarterback in the country statistics-wise. Purdue hosts Penn State on a Thursday night to open the season. These are 2 teams that figure to be pretty good. These are 2 teams that are evenly matched. I think this has a chance to be like a 45-42 barn burner. Penn State at Purdue is the best game of week 1, in my opinion.
I like that.
We move to week 2.
No, we didn't do upsets.
Oh, we didn't do upsets? I'm sorry.
No.
All right, Jack, why don't you start us off with upset alert?
I think Boston College is on upset alert against Rutgers. I know that's the 7.5 point spread right now, but I think anything over a touchdown is considered an upset. If I had to pick something else, I guess, I would West Virginia beating Pitt being upset.
By the rankings, probably, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't see anything massive happening, but that's when something massive happens. So,
Kayce Smith.
So this is where I was going to say, I don't know if you're going off of gambling odds. I should have looked at the gambling odds on the Barstool Sportsbook before I did this. I'm going to go off of what I think rankings are going to look like. My upset alert is a game Jack has already talked about, Cincinnati at Arkansas. I believe Cincinnati will be ranked higher than Arkansas because of the way they played last year, best season ever in the playoff. And I think that we're going to see a big drop off from them. I know Arkansas has a really tough schedule, and I know Brandon, you hate Sam Pittman and company, but I could see this being a come down to earth game for Cincinnati and Arkansas taking that win.
I don't want to be an asshole, but Arkansas is a 7-point favorite in that game.
Right. So, but I assume in rankings, Cincinnati will be higher than Arkansas. So that's where I was saying.
We'll see. I think they'll be very similar, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, I mean, that's that. I should have looked at it on the sports book. I was going off of rankings because I just assumed that because Cincinnati was in the playoff, they'll be ranked higher than Arkansas. I could be wrong there, but like I said, I should have looked at the odds. So if we're going odds, that's not an upset. If we're going ranking, I think it will be an upset.
Well, mine's the best anyway. So I've got, I have a true upset alert. A team that better be on pins and needles, a team that better be on their P's and Q's, a team that's coming into this season with more expectations than they've come into a season for 20 years since Phillip Rivers was there. NC State believes NC State's going to be a top 15 team, top 20 team. NC State believes they can compete in the ACC. NC State is also opening on the road at East Carolina, an East Carolina team who has been improving, has gotten a little bit better. They're not great, but they're at home. And what better way for a team like East Carolina, who's, and also ran in that state, who's not NC State, it's not in North Carolina, it's not Duke, it's East Carolina. This is their Super Bowl. This is a gigantic game when they get one of the big guys to come to their house to open the season, and that team has massive expectations. NC State better be on upset alert when it goes to East Carolina.
I like it.
Should be fun.
By the way, as we're speaking, I'm doing my due diligence and I'm going through all my upsets to get the right gambling odds via the Barstool Sportsbook app, just so everyone knows.
That's what I checked just now. It's NC State minus 10.5.
Yeah.
So that's a great upset pick. That's the highest odds that you gave us in week 1. I gave a 7.5 point dog. You gave a 10.5. Kayce gave a 7.5 point favorite.
What?
No, I'm just
Talking semantics, Smith semantics over here, but yes,
No,
I
no, I'm being an asshole. I should.
no, it's okay. You can be an asshole. I believe Cincinnati will be ranked higher again.
I think they may. You may be right.
We'll see.
All right.
Will be coming out pretty soon, I think.
Katie, did you have any to add on week 1?
I did not.
All right, okay. So we move on to week 2. All right. Week 2, and I'll just start us off again. I believe if you guys have one that I'm wrong on, I don't see how Alabama, Texas isn't going to be the most hyped game, the biggest game, the most gigantic game. It's the big noon kickoff. Alabama at Texas is the biggest game of the week nationally in week 2. Do we all agree?
Yes. That's
Yep.
the first one we agree on, by the way.
Yep.
Okay. So Alabama, Texas, but the actual biggest game, what is it, Jack?
It's Alabama, Texas.
That's the only one I have repeats too.
I'll just get my lips out of the way. Every answer here is Alabama, Texas.
All 4 of them?
Yeah, all 4. That's the only week I did it for, but that's they are actual biggest and best, and then upset alert.
Okay. All right. So Jack cashed in his chips early on this one.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what's the actual biggest game that week, Kayce Smith?
I also did. This is the only time I doubled up, and I only have them for 2 categories, but I do have Alabama at Texas for the biggest and the actual biggest.
To me, Alabama, Texas is the biggest game because of the hype, because of the names, because of the teams, the programs. Alabama's going to win by 3 touchdowns. I don't really see much there as far as drama or anything, so I don't think it's the biggest game. The actual biggest game will happen in Iowa City, Iowa, which is where we get a real good taste of rivalry week early. It's always a big game for these teams. Iowa State hasn't won it in recent years. Iowa State is losing pretty much everybody. They got to start over, but how good of a coach is he? Is he a great coach? Can he go into Iowa and compete? Iowa thinks they can win the Big Ten West, as they always think they can win the Big Ten West. That's a huge rivalry game right out of the gate, and it defines those 2 teams' season early. So I think the biggest game is actually Iowa State at Iowa. The best game. What's that?
We've been going through.
Yeah.
It's upset.
I got a good one.
What will be the best game of week 2? Jack has already said it's Alabama, Texas. Katie, Kayce, what do you say?
So this one goes back to the storylines, and this is where I think, I differ a little bit with your best. I think USC at Stanford. I think that because, Lincoln Riley, Caleb Williams, everything that's going on, it's a conference game. They're going to be there, and it's going to be I think that game has the potential to be the most talked about, depending on what USC does. And Stanford, while they've not been good in a while, again, if USC loses, disaster. If they win and heavily, it's like, well, look at in the Pac-12, they're already the favorite. So to me, that's going to be the best game, just because we're going to finally see in week 2, we're going to get to see them in conference.
All right. Best game, Katie, you got one?
I'd agree with the Texas Alabama. I will put it maybe a more even game would be Tennessee Pitt. Oh, I took one of his.
Yeah, no shit. I gave you the list last night.
Oh, I you did, but I've honestly forgotten.
All right.
I have the schedule in front of me.
The biggest game will be Alabama, Texas. The actual biggest game will be Iowa State, Iowa. The best game will be in Pittsburgh, which is where high-scoring Tennessee rolls into Pitt. Pitt beat them last year in Knoxville in a high-scoring, thrilling game. This year, I think Tennessee might get it back. Tennessee's going to score 40, 45 points. Pitt, with Keaton Slovis and that offense, can they keep up? I think that's got a chance to be another 45-42 thriller. I think Tennessee-Pitt is the best game of week 2.
Wait. I'm just going to go ahead and cap this one off and go with it. I have the upset alert is Tennessee at Pitt. For all the things that you just said, obviously Pitt beat them last year. Tennessee has all the hype in the world with Hendon Hooker. Pitt is a 3.5 point dog there. You look at just how high scoring both of these teams could be. I could see this being one of those games where Tennessee fans come into this season screaming and yelling, and in week 2, they get the same dose of medicine that they got last year.
All right. And then my upset alert is in Madison, Wisconsin, where you'll have a top 20 Wisconsin team who is not used to losing these games. They host Washington State. Wisconsin lost everybody defensively, and I mean they lost everybody defensively. They'll be pretty much starting over there. They got a couple guys back, a couple of good players back, but they're pretty much starting over on defense. Their offense hasn't been explosive. They're hosting a Washington State team with Cam Ward from Incarnate Word. Is he going to be good? Is he going to be great? If so, they could be laying in the weeds and could shock Wisconsin in Madison. Would it be? It's a Power 5 against Power 5, so that's not a gigantic upset, but Wisconsin is going to be a 8 to 10 point favorite, and they're going, I believe Washington State is going to put them on upset alert. That is a game that Wisconsin could lose if their defense isn't ready in week 2. We move on to week 3.
Wait,
Sorry, my
upset.
parents' dog, my dog is now making noise. So we've had my mom interrupt the podcast, my dad, and now the dog. So
Katie had an upset alert.
Yeah, the Blattman Bowl.
I thought about that one too, Katie. I thought about that one too, but I didn't want to upset Brandon because last time I brought up Mississippi State in a negative way, all hell broke loose. So you go for it, girl.
Because last time you lied, you tried to put yourself on a tier above us.
I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing it. I just don't have the energy.
Tell your dad that Mississippi State and A&M are on the same tier too. In fact, we won last year, wherever you are.
He's back in the other side of
Your
the
eyes.
kitchen.
I got my eyes on you, Smith.
He's talking to you.
All right. So week 3.
He's talking trash to you. Yes.
Week 3.
Our maroon is prettier than his.
You hear that?
It's the exact same color. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Thank you, Ben Mintz, for not understanding my dad was making a joke. I told this story and I'm going to say it again. My dad, then full of sarcasm, before we were going into Omaha, said, "When is kickoff?" Joking. And Ben Mintz was like, "Oh, no, it's called first pitch." And I was like, "Mintz, he's joking."
Yeah. Ben Mintz is a fucking idiot. News at 11. Okay. Week 3.
Dad.
You're going to have to tell your dad. Okay. Week 3, the biggest game. And this one was tough because the first 2 weeks have gigantic games. This one was tough. I think the answer could be 2 here. So I went biggest game and actual biggest game. I just swapped them. I think Miami, Texas A&M are 2 big time programs meeting on a Saturday night. I think that's the biggest game. But you guys could have a different answer. Who's your answer?
Like I said, there are very few that you and I have similar or have the same. And I am going to go with this one too. I do think Miami and A&M. Week 3 is a down week, like you said, in comparison to week 1 and week 2. But I do think that that's a marquee game.
I think week 3 is loaded.
It's loaded, but it's like you don't like. Well, I guess we disagreed in week 1 what the biggest game was, but I feel like you could make an argument for. I mean, Ohio State, Notre Dame, I didn't put there, but Miami A&M seems to be that it will be the marquee matchup.
There's one more. It was between that and another one for me. Jack,
I have the other one
that
on a
week?
different spot.
Yeah, I have biggest Oklahoma versus Nebraska or at Nebraska.
Yeah. So let me just transition now because I got my actual biggest game is Oklahoma and Nebraska. I think that's going to be the biggest Nebraska win in 15 years. I think they're going to beat Oklahoma. I think it's going to be 95,000 people there. They're going to be 3-0. I think that will be the actual biggest game of the week when Nebraska beats Oklahoma.
Again, spoiler alert, I have that game somewhere else. I do have them on my list of somewhere else. My actual biggest game, which I think is I feel like it was kind of just skimmed over, but you mentioned Penn State earlier. I think Penn State at Auburn has a lot of implications when you talk about what that could do for the different divisions and conferences. We don't know what Auburn's going to look like. We don't know who the 3rd best team in the SEC is going to be. Auburn hasn't been in the conversation when you look at that, but they almost beat Alabama last year. And then Penn State with Sean Clifford and everything we mentioned earlier, it's like, when you look at the Big Ten and the SEC, we know who the top teams are. We don't know who that next level of team that's going to disrupt the conferences are going to be. And I think that this game has a lot of implications for both the Big Ten and the SEC.
Not a bad point. Anybody else have an actual best game that's different?
Well, I had Auburn, Penn State.
Did you really?
Yeah, and
I
for
love that.
yes, for all the same reasons you said.
I love that, Jack.
Yeah, and then to transition the upset, or wait,
Oh,
what?
Best game. We're going to do the
Best.
best game. So what will be the best game of the week?
A&M Miami.
Okay. Kayce Smith.
Oklahoma at Nebraska. Everything that you guys said, that's a game where, those schools have an understated rivalry. And then obviously the changes at Oklahoma and Nebraska fans just hoping that Scott Frost can finally get it together.
I think the best game of that week could be BYU at Oregon. BYU, a team that can upset a lot of apple carts this year. Oregon, a team that will be right for that. And we've seen Oregon lose focus in these out-of-conference games. BYU at Oregon feels like a game you're going to be watching deep into the night because it's got potential to go to overtime. That is my best game of the week. Katie, you look like you nodded your head and agree with that one.
Yeah, no, I was excited when I saw that because I thought no one else had it. Another one, I don't necessarily about best, but I think it's interesting to compare conferences, but Texas Tech at NC State. They're just like good barometers between the two. Same with like the Penn State Auburn.
And who are we putting on upset alert? I think we can take context clues and we know exactly who Kayce's putting on upset alert here.
You've really got to stop speaking for me before. I mean, granted, you were right this time.
But you said it. You said it earlier. You were like, you kept saying, "Oh, I put him somewhere else. I put him somewhere else." Well, this is.
No, I was talking. No, I wasn't talking about putting that somewhere else. I was talking about team games we've already talked about in that specific week. I put them someone else.
Okay.
But you are right this time. I do have Mississippi State at LSU as the upset of the week. LSU right now in the Barstool Sportsbook is +3.5. Just because.
Timeout.
Wait,
are you saying LSU beating Mississippi State would be an upset?
LSU's is the dog.
no.
Yeah, but that one they're going to be ranked. Mississippi State's not.
Well, earlier we were talking about how it depends on what the Barstool Sportsbook app
I know Jack brought that up. I think it's rankings slash. It's a little bit of both.
Okay, well, if we're going by the Barstool Sportsbook, Mississippi State is favored by 3.5 going into Baton Rouge.
I just don't think that can possibly qualify as an upset. LSU beat Mississippi State at home.
But Jack said that we're going by the Barstool Sportsbook.
Jack ain't in charge. See what you did, Jack?
I mean, listen, I can find a different one if you want me to go by rankings.
LSU's favored in that game.
No.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain they are. I can't see a world where we're favored over
Minus
LSU.
3.5. Mississippi State's the dog in that game, and they're on the road. Yeah.
Oh,
It's the wrong way.
Brandon.
Oh no.
I was like,
I have you guys beating LSU in Baton Rouge.
yeah.
Well, that makes more sense.
Right.
Yep.
It literally is written down right here. this is what happens. You can't get into my head when we're doing it. Yes.
You can see why we were confused.
Mississippi State going to Baton Rouge because they are +3.5. I have this written down. I just immediately was on the defense with you being like, oh, I know what you're doing here. So you're right. A little bit of dyslexia mixed with my defense mechanisms. I apologize. Mississippi State will upset LSU in Baton Rouge in week 3.
Fair enough. Okay, my upset alert in week 3 is out in the LA Coliseum, which is where USC has all the hype in the world. They're coming off maybe a win against Stanford. They're coming off, they got Lincoln Riley, they got Caleb Williams. Fresno State is a team that ain't scared of shit. They got Jay Kaner. They are not scared of anything. They beat UCLA after UCLA beat LSU last year. They've been here before. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but USC better be on upset alert when Fresno State pays a visit in the Coliseum in week 3. Jack.
Yeah, I had Mississippi State and LSU as my upset alert.
For the right reasons. Yeah.
Katie?
So Jack, handshake.
Agree. In agreement. Nothing different.
UConn's playing Michigan that week too.
Upset. Sorry. That's my upset.
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
UConn over Michigan.
Yep.
Upset.
You never know.
Week 4, we move on to week 4. Another one with not a slam dunk biggest game. But I do think nationally, Wisconsin and Ohio State is probably going to be the game that gets the most love, the most eyeballs. It's 2 division favorites. It's teams that don't play every year. Wisconsin at Ohio State is the biggest game as far as hype goes. Who agrees / disagrees?
I agree with that, assuming that Wisconsin at this, again, we're doing this 6 weeks out from week 1. We're assuming that Wisconsin is who we think they are. Obviously at this point, this is the end of September. So a lot of things could happen before week 4, but I agree. Wisconsin at Ohio State, because when you look at, all the talk about the conference realignment and how strong one division is in the Big Ten versus, when they all get to Indiana, it's like, or Indianapolis, it's like, all right, well, it's going to be, Ohio State or Michigan. And it's like, well, no, Wisconsin's always there too. Plus, I think that's a really fun game. I think that'll be a game that everybody's
That game's
excited
going to
for.
stink.
What?
I think that game's gonna stink.
Well, it might be really low scoring. I don't know though.
I
Ohio
think
State's offense is crazy, but I think that the game itself is going to be hyped and that it's going to be one of those messy gambling games that everybody loves to watch.
I mean, yeah, Ohio State's 15-point favorites right now. The biggest game of the week is Arkansas A&M.
Yeah, that was my other one that I had on here. What's the actual biggest game?
I have Clemson at Wake Forest. We talked a lot about Wake and kind of see what they're going to do this upcoming year. We've also talked about, will DJ get Clemson back to where they should be? This game to me has a lot of implications on what the ACC is going to look like. And if Wake can upset Clemson in week 4, depending on what else is happening in that conference, they could, I feel like, and I know it's one of those eye rolling cliche things that we say, but the cannibalism of one's conference, if Clemson is out of it early enough, that this could start that, and the ACC could just be shit out of luck that early.
So I think the actual biggest game, and this is probably my weakest actual biggest game as far as national ramifications, but Oklahoma trying to win the Big 12. I think Kansas State is a great outlier pick to win the Big 12. I think they have NFL talent on defense. They got Deuce Vaughn. They got the quarterback from Nebraska.
I have a gripe with you for that. Where'd you
Why?
get? I am the first person in this office to talk about Kansas State.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. I have a Twitter documented like 3 weeks.
I have. You've been on the Brandon Walker show. That caller told me about Kansas State like months ago, and I was like, okay, well, I'm on them now. And also Rico's on Kansas State, so we're not the only ones.
Where do you think he got that from?
From you, yeah, that's fine. You don't own. You can't say I like a team in July.
You can't own a college football team.
Not owning. But like,
All I said was this is the actual biggest game. Kansas State has a chance to win the conference, and they're going to Oklahoma, and they've beaten them twice in recent years.
I am owning the Kansas State 6.5 over. You can own being liking them, but when
You
people
can't even own that. I can bet that if I want.
you can, yes, 100%. But I was the first one to talk about it of my own volition, not be talked into it.
What would be the best game of week 4?
I'm gonna double down on what you guys said. Just different area, Arkansas at A&M, just because of that game is always crazy. Even when Arkansas is absolute garbaggio, that game is always crazy. Obviously being at a neutral site sucks. I wish they would play on campus, but because Arkansas beat A&M last year, I think that game, no matter what, is always just insanity.
I think a game that could be sick, like legitimately sick. It's a Thursday night. It's early in September. Kids probably just won't go to class on Thursday, and Friday they probably don't even have class. Most kids don't have class on Fridays anyways. West Virginia, Virginia Tech could just be a sick game, from the atmosphere perspective. Like Enter Sandman, we're getting to that point in September where it's still warm outside, but the sun's going down a little bit earlier, and I think it is. When's the longest day of the year?
I think we passed it, or it's coming.
June 21st is the longest day of the year. Fall starts September 21st, and this is like September
22nd.
22nd. Yeah, so it's right when fall starts.
Yeah, and I think in West Virginia and Virginia Tech, they don't like each other, obviously, for obvious reasons, and it's a nice little crossover, and so we'll see it. And I think it has a chance to just be a great Thursday night game. I hope it's not a good. I hope it's a crappy like Jaguars against Texans Thursday night NFL game, so we can enjoy it.
So I believe the best game of week 4 will in fact be Clemson Wake Forest. It's one of the best defenses in the country against one of the best offenses. It's Wake Forest's time to stand up at home against Clemson. It'll be the biggest home game they've had in years. It'll be madness. Clemson Wake Forest has a chance to be, a 24-24 game with 2 minutes left, and we figure out the future of the ACC. My upset alert. Who wants to go first?
Why don't you go first since you started it and said
Week
it?
4 upset alert. We go back to the Big Ten where we have another team who is changing a lot defensively this year. You have another team who is going to be good, going to be in the top 20, maybe even top 10 at this point. Michigan hosts Maryland, and Maryland getting back their big-time receivers. Maryland with a third-year quarterback now, not a second-year quarterback, going into Michigan. I don't know that Maryland is going to win this game, but I know Michigan better be on alert because they have a puncher's chance with Talia, with those receivers against a defense that's retooling. Chances are Michigan can just score 50 and be fine with their very talented offense, but upset alert, Maryland at Michigan.
So my upset alert, and as I've gone through this, I've realized that I'm going against everything that I've said about who I think the second best team in the SEC East is going to be, because I've been very high on Tennessee and Hendon Hooker. However, I have Florida at Tennessee. Again, I don't know for sure Florida's going to upset them, but that we all know how crazy that game can get. They fucking hate each other. Unless I'm dyslexic again, Jack, I'm pretty sure Florida is a 3.5 point dog. Tennessee's favored. Just Florida being such, and I know you brought it up earlier, Brandon, I don't remember which week it was, just such a question mark with them, all the change that's going on. They're still Florida, and that game crazy shit happens. And again, Tennessee has so much expectation that, you know, when I said the same thing against Pitt in week 2, I could just see this being a heartbreaker, but that goes against everything that I've said about Tennessee and Hendon Hooker going into this. So maybe I'll be wrong, but I do think that they should be on upset alert at least.
Jack, your upset alert?
Yeah, at Michigan and Maryland. Also, I think Texas is in a tough spot there against Texas Tech. That will be a big game no matter what. They always seem to, like last year, I think Texas ran through Texas Tech, but the year before it was a great game, and they always have great games. So
Was the year before the game where Texas Tech had a 14-point lead with like a minute left and blew it?
and the quarterbacks like pointed at the camera or like at
Yes.
the crowd and waved, and
Yeah.
then came back and won.
Touchdown and onside kick. Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
Yes, and for Texas Tech too. I mean, granted, you know, when I was younger, it was all the Big 12, but people don't, unless you've been to a game in Lubbock or you're a Texas Tech fan, you don't realize how much Texas Tech fans fucking hate Texas and hate A&M. And I mean, they aren't nationally relevant right now, but they love to screw up those schedules for those teams. So
They
that
hate
game,
everybody.
yeah, I mean, that game, you know, Texas Tech has the hatred involved, even though nationally it's not talked about because Texas Tech and Texas both haven't really been relevant. Obviously, Texas always more so, but anyways.
Katie, did you have a upset alert for week 4?
I do. It's half most interesting, half upset, but I think TCU at SMU.
Yeah.
TCU just stole their coach. It also seems like SMU might be pretty good this year.
Yeah.
But people are already kind of circling that in their calendar to see if SMU can get a little revenge for the coach.
They beat them last year, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
But then they sold their coach, so it's
What's it
even more
called?
interesting.
It's
Oh, the skillet.
the Skillet Bowl or whatever.
I'm right now where I am, smack dab in the middle of where TCU and SMU fan bases are. And let me tell you, some of the hottest girls on the planet in both of those schools.
I'm getting to the point of Brandon where Brandon's just like, yeah, there's hot girls everywhere. Like what? Like we're
But
saying.
Jack,
like,
but Jack,
no.
per capita.
I don't know. It's just, there's hot girls everywhere.
Well, there's,
Well,
there's,
yeah, of course there is.
there's different bars. Like you can be a bar is in level, not establishment. Like you can be a New York 8, but a Montauk 4, or like a New York 6, but a LA 2.
There's also, it's like, you know, there are hot people everywhere, but then if you've got a much smaller student population and 80% is hot girls versus, you know, maybe 30% elsewhere, that's per capita.
All right,
I-
week 5. Week 5 is I kind of need to go now.
I know.
Week 5, biggest game. I couldn't decide. It's either Alabama at Arkansas or Michigan at Iowa. It's one of those two games.
I have Michigan and Iowa, so we can just go faster. I have Michigan and Iowa because I think Arkansas will have already lost by then, and that's a huge Big Ten game for both Michigan and Iowa.
Jack, do you have anything different?
Mm-mm.
All right, the actual biggest game in my mind, it will be NC State at Clemson. NC State, this will be the biggest game of their season. They beat them last year, but can they do it on the road? Is Clemson entrenching themselves? They just had Wake Forest. Are they now putting themselves back on top of the conference? That's a huge game for the ACC and for Clemson potentially being a national contender again.
This is the only one where I had two matchups again, knowing that it's week 5. We'll see. I had NC State, Clemson, and then also in the Pac-12, Arizona State at USC.
I had Oklahoma State at Baylor.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my best game, Jack. So we're just firing off. My best game of the week is Oklahoma State at Baylor.
My best game of the week is also Oklahoma State at Baylor. It is a rematch of the best conference championship game last year. And it is two teams that are, you know, figure to be in the mix out there. And upset alert. The team that's going to be proud of themselves could get knocked off. The team that thinks they're all high and mighty and somebody knocks them down. The team that always thinks they're a tier above, but they're going to get beat.
Okay,
Who
Brandon,
could be the upset alert in week 5?
I know.
No. Let me lead off on this one, if I may. Why?
I know.
It's Mississippi State.
Oh, that's not where I was going, but I'm going to make you happy with my pick.
Mississippi State over Texas A&M is your upset alert of week
Get out
5.
of here.
Texas A&M is going to, what do you mean get out of here? Who won last year?
I'm not doing this again. Can I tell you my pick though, so you'll be happy?
Sure.
I think Kentucky's going to beat Ole Miss.
Fair enough. I do think there's a chance Kentucky's highly ranked at that point, but maybe not too.
But
So
as of right now, the Ole Miss is favored, and as of right now, I think that they'll have more hype just because they finished the way they finished last year. By week 5, who knows? But I think the Will Levis factor, all of that, and I wanted to throw you a bone. I wish I could take it back now because of how ugly you just were.
I wasn't. Tell me if A&M comes in there at number 12 in the country and they haven't lost, you're not nervous going to Starkville. Tell me that.
I am. Of course I am. I mean, it's kind of like when I ask you about you being nervous about what's going to happen in week 2 in Arizona. Like, you're going to be nervous no matter what. Mississippi State, A&M lost to Ole Miss and Mississippi State last year, but beat Auburn and Alabama. Riddle me that.
Well, Auburn wasn't good. We beat them too. Alabama more impressive. Jack, upset alert for week 5 or best game. I don't think you got that one in either.
Best game, which probably NC State that's NC State Clemson. And then upset alert. I don't know the exact line here, but I think Auburn could beat LSU. That's probably not saying a lot, but I think Auburn's a better team than anyone really expects. And LSU may have a pretty good record at that point, but we'll see. Anyways, that's my upset.
Katie, anything to add on this week?
Yeah, it's more most interesting, but Michigan State at Maryland. I'm interested to see how Michigan State secondary deals with Talia.
All right, very good. That's the first 5 weeks of the season. That's fleshing it out. We'll do October or some other episode, then November another episode. Maybe we'll wait till the season. Maybe we'll just go ahead and get them out of the way.
I like the idea of going back eventually too, and looking at after September's over, looking at September and seeing how right and how wrong we were.
Or we could do it week by week.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Like a review of our way. So we should do all of it, preview it. We should do October before the season, everything, and just
let's do that all. Every week we'll check in on ourselves.
Yeah. So we have because if we wait until the season, then we'll have more idea of what the rankings are. We should do it all preseason.
All right. We got to get out of here. Thank you very much. That's a good, solid show. We'll be back on Sunday night. Sunday night, we'll have another show for you. And thank you to everybody.
Wait,
Monday.
Either way, same thing.
Okay.
We'll be back Monday.
We'll be back.
Yeah, we'll be back.
That's unnecessary roughness.